I'm Connor Old, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. Today we're looking at Quentin Tarantino. Welcome back, guys. I'm having a blast with the series. We've been doing really well so far. I think I've been doing good, sort of keeping on top of it, keeping that weekly schedule up. We've been going through so many directors pretty quickly, actually. But don't worry, there's plenty of directors to do. I have a whole list of so many directors, great directors, and their greatest movies. Of course, we're going to get into some of the classics, someone like Alfred Hitchcock, Akira Kurosawa. But I really want to do directors that really inspired me and sort of are really personal to me. I'm still sort of learning about sort of those other directors. In that sort of even someone like Jean-Luc Godard in the French New Wave, really I'm sort of getting new to them and they haven't really absorbed me or affected me. Whereas someone like the Coen Brothers or Quentin Tarantino or Steven Spielberg, these are the guys that you hear of at the beginning. So that I've really sort of learned about them and I've sort of grown up with them. And that's why I feel like I'll talk about them first, because I know more about them. I can speak more intellectually about them. Until I've seen, I've seen all of Quentin Tarantino's movies. I own all of his movies. I'm a big fan. And that's why I decided to do him and talk about him, because, I think I can talk about him well and properly, in a sense, compared to someone like a Jean-Luc Godard, where I haven't seen all of his movies yet. But we will get into that. There's plenty of great directors. But Quentin Tarantino, one of my favorites. That's why he's an early episode. If you haven't seen the series before, welcome back. Essentially what we do is we break down the director and explain why he is good, what makes him unique, and sort of his best movie, and then my favorite movie of his. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. In this case, they don't. I'll be talking about that a little bit later, but first off, let's get into why Quentin Tarantino is good, and really just why he's considered a good director, why people like him, or why I like him. And the main thing I'm going to say right off the beginning is his dialogue. Quentin Tarantino, he's a writer-director. Someone like Steven Spielberg, most of the time he's just a director. But Quentin Tarantino, if anything, he's a writer first and then a director. He started off with writing movies like True Romance and Natural Born Killers, but he always wanted to direct. He started off, he didn't go to film school. His film school was sort of a scenario of him working at a video store and watching all the movies and collaborating with his friends there. And that's sort of an interesting thing about him that I like to start off with, is that that's how he got started, in a sense. Is back in the old days, a lot of people would say that if you were a writer, you had to experience those things. Someone like Oliver Stone or whatever wrote Scarface because he was, at the time, I believe, he was in rehab, or he was trying to distance himself from his cocaine addiction. So he started writing about that. So it's almost like write what you know. That's a common thing. And that doesn't mean you have to experience all this stuff, but you have to sort of have that common theme. And Quentin Tarantino was the first one to sort of stray away from this, and because he never did all this crazy stuff like he's been writing about, but he's watched a lot of movies. Actually, Quentin Tarantino, he's over here, has probably watched the most movies out of anybody on this entire planet. It's incredible his movie knowledge. He has all the classic movie knowledge that you know of, but then he also has this incredible B-movie knowledge, and really he used to watch movies constantly. And I've probably seen 1/1000th of all the movies that he's seen. He's got incredible movie knowledge. I think that really helps him. But that also goes back, now I'm straying too far off. I'll talk about that a little later, but right now, let me go back into writing in this dialogue. So he's a writer first, then a director, and he started with movies like True Romance and whatnot. But really he's known for his dialogue, his witty dialogue, and then on top of that, his sort of shock value subjects, and especially violence. So, the first one he writes about bank robbers, Reservoir Dogs. His next movie, Pulp Fiction, he's writing about, there's some pretty graphic scenes, and then there's Hitman, and then, there's a boxer. So he's sort of taking a great job at just writing characters and writing dialogue. This is why something like Pulp Fiction, which I consider his best movie, has a lot of the good thing about it, is that it's his script, it's dialogue. And he's really done a great job. He is a great director because he can take his own script and then really translate that to the screen and make sense. Especially because his scripts a lot of times are non-linear, and they're not always, they're non-linear, so they're not in the right order. Things reveal to themselves later on. And that's sort of hard to do, to take a screenplay and put it into a movie. A lot of directors have problems with that, of adapting other people's works, but because he's a writer-director, he's able to do that fantastically. So it's, incredible dialogue that's just so memorable. And really, so you have the great dialogue with interesting characters as well, but really it's that witty sort of quick dialogue that he's known for. That's sort of his signature. And then the next thing I'd say signature from that is violence. Definitely you see the gunshot, and you see the bullet go through the guy's brain and splatter, and see the blood. Django Unchained, I think, or even Kill Bill, you could say, is probably the most violent of the ones. But he's always a great director for me because he has that signature sort of violence and the signature dialogue, but he's able to take different genres. Reservoir Dogs was like a bank heist movie. Pulp Fiction, a magnum opus, and then Kill Bill, sort of a throwback to a spaghetti western. Hateful Eight, Django Unchained, very much a western. Inglourious Basterds, a World War II epic. So and Death Proof, sort of a horror-esque movie. So he really does a great job at mixing the genres. And right now he's actually directed 8 movies. He's actually said he's only going to direct 10 movies, so that means there's only 2 movies left. Technically he's done 9 movies, but he counts Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2 into one movie, as he should, because he made that for one movie, and then the studio split that in half. That's okay, whatever. I actually only saw Kill Bill 1 and 2 together. I've never seen them separately, so I've sort of had the pleasure of watching them, and I still consider them sort of one experience, as he does. But we only have 2 movies of him left, so he's going to be sort of a rare director, He's had a lot of his career sort of passed, and you sort of realize that with the directors I've been choosing is sort of Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, these guys who their careers have already spanned. I don't know if Martin Scorsese is going to make a movie better than Goodfellas, or maybe a favorite one like How I Such Adored Taxi Driver. They sort of had these long careers, and that's why I've chosen to do Quentin Tarantino. And I'm not doing someone like Denis Villeneuve, who hasn't had his full career yet. But I may do, a quick episode of him when Blade Runner 2048 comes out. Or I'm going to be doing Edgar Wright, I know, eventually in the future, when Baby Driver comes out. But that's for another time. Going back to Quentin Tarantino. So you got the violence, you got the dialogue, and then that ability to sort of go through the genre. So you have that signature things, and then, but then you also to be able to put that in different genres, which is something I really like, because going back to what I was going to say before, which is the homages. That's why he's seen so many movies. People actually consider him of stealing other movies, of stealing ideas that people haven't seen, and for himself, particularly Reservoir Dogs for being, I believe, a Japanese film, or maybe it was a Korean film, that very similar sort of ties that people consider him of stealing of. But that's another thing they say he's stealing and he's not that good. I sort of get that understanding because he does have sort of references and homages, as people like to refer to, and sometimes they can say it's just straight up stealing. But I do think he does a great job at creating his own story and creating his own characters, and you really come to that dialogue. Quentin Tarantino, he's like a guy like Aaron Sorkin, except Aaron Sorkin is just right now getting into the directing game with his new movie Molly's Game. But he's sort of known for that quick dialogue and very distinctive. No one really ever saw it before Quentin Tarantino. You have to realize this, in the 90s, no one really saw this sort of type of cool vibe to it. And especially with his earlier films, a lot of pop culture references. Recently, he's been doing more historical things, so it's been lacking of that. But the Reservoir Dogs, that opening scene, in terms of referencing pop culture in movies, no one's really done that. Movies was sort of an escapism thing. He sort of really grounded movies into a real world. And he had this great sort of fun talking way, it seemed like it was everyone else talking. You know what I mean? The hitmen in Pulp Fiction, when they're talking about just generic, almost mindless things, it felt very real, despite it being expertly written and expertly stylized. Another thing he likes to talk about is human error, I think, and sort of just like human tragedy. He's never picking good characters, always sort of criminals that have sort of more of an element to them. And he always sort of gives them an extra dimension, which I really like. Okay, yeah. And then another thing is that he's probably going to do Broadway plays and whatnot after he does his 10 movies. So he's not going to be done creatively. But in terms of movies, that's what he says. I don't know if we can believe him right now. Right now, let's go with the best, which is Pulp Fiction. Definitely, I think this is his best because it's an incredible non-linear movie. It's nothing. No movie has ever sort of got into the pulp culture zeitgeist and sort of the youth culture like Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. So many people took storm to it. It was sort of a controversial movie when it came out, but people really attached to it. It's definitely a classic. People love this movie. This is some of people's favorite movies of all time. And that's because of its incredibly quotable dialogue, its funny sort of different scenarios. It's sort of shockingness to it because of the non-linear storytelling. He plays with the message of time. So a character that you have in Vincent Vega ends up actually getting shot later on in the movie. And you're like, what? You just shot like a main character, John Travolta, a big star. But he's also known for that, and we've seen that now with John Travolta in terms of bringing back stars from sort of like from wherever they've come from. You have, who is it? Pam Grier? No, sorry. Yeah, maybe it is. Okay, and well, John Travolta he brought back for Pulp Fiction. You know, he was a washed-up actor, sort of. People didn't really like him, but he brought him back, and this sort of restarted his career. You know, he's done that stuff with guys like Kurt Russell and whatnot, sort of bringing them back into the limelight. And he still has favorites, like we've seen in Hateful Eight, bringing back Michael Madsen and Tim Roth, and of course Samuel L. Jackson into that sort of limelight. And Samuel L. Jackson, this is his best performance of all time for sure. And he's just one of those actors that you see him in every movie of Quentin Tarantino's, because he's one of those actors that can say Tarantino dialogue. You know, a lot of people can say Coen Brothers dialogue or Wes Anderson dialogue, and they sort of keep them from movie to movie. Well, Tarantino is the same way where he has sort of favorites and people that come back. Samuel Jackson's one of them. Like I said, Michael Madsen, Tim Roth, Harvey Keitel. Actually, not Harvey Keitel really as much, but sort of these people who can really say the dialogue perfectly and sort of get the message they're doing. I actually like Steve Buscemi. I think he can say the dialogue really well, but he hasn't been really in any of Tarantino's movies, aside from Reservoir Dogs, now that I think of it. Maybe he was in Kill Bill. Anyways, he hasn't been in a lot of it. But back to Pulp Fiction, I think is so good. Like I said, it captured that zeitgeist so well, but it really shows that like it's an interesting characters. You know, we talk about the 3-quadrant system: the characters, the dialogue, and the visuals. Definitely Tarantino hits the characters and the dialogue for sure. Dialogue just to a max, and then the characters. He takes these hitmen, and normally people think in movies before it's like hitmen, all they talked about was killing people in their job, but really he's made them humanize them in a sense where they're like you and me, where we don't talk about our job 24/7. We may talk about the next pop culture thing, what TV show we're watching, or what movie we were watching, and sort of that sort of needless, seemingly needless dialogue in that car with Vincent Vega and Samuel Jackson's character. It shows that it's seemingly meaningless, but it always has great meaning behind it. It's back to the dialogue and the script behind it. So you take Samuel Jackson's character when they first do it, they're in their hitman job and they're sort of taking the burger and eating it and sort of looking for that money. You know, they sort of toy with them a bit because they want to show intimidation. And even that dialogue, the way it's said, it is just meaningless. He's talking about a burger and, oh, it's a good burger place. And, you know, but really it's sort of a sense of intimidation. Or when they're in the car talking about Royale with cheese, that famous line, it really shows that the camaraderie. So you have all these things where they're seemingly meaningless and just people talking about anything, but it really drives the story forward and gives you hints that you don't really realize until you put it all together. When I watched for Pulp Fiction, I was really surprised by it. I was like, really, this is considered a good movie? It's so weird. I remember thinking, it's so weird, it's so out of here, but it really grows on you, really sticks to you. You're always thinking about it. And that dialogue really is memorable, not because people have been sort of putting it out there all the time, but because it really stuck with me. You know, Harvey Keitel and Wolfman and Tarantino's appearance there. And then I'm not even talking about Uma Thurman and her and Don Travolta's scenes with the dance scene and, you know, the foot massages and all that stuff and all the drugs and the violence and the adrenaline shot with the Sharpie marker and, you know, all that stuff. And then even Bruce Willis, his sideline character, and then with Ving Rhames and whatnot in that incredible basement scene that I don't want to spoil if you haven't seen it. Really incredible, just great job at non-linear storytelling, playing with time, incredible characters, great ensemble piece, incredible dialogue. Pulp Fiction, incredible movie. My favorite movie of his is actually Reservoir Dogs. What I love about Reservoir Dogs is the incredible performances from everybody, from Steve Buscemi, from Harvey Keitel, even Tarantino, Tim Roth, all that stuff. And what I really love about it is the incredible sense of dialogue. You know, this is my favorite Tarantino dialogue, and that's really what is able to sort of attach myself to that role in a sense. And I think he does a great job of that beginning diner scene where you talk about how the Madonna song, once again going back to that pop culture thing with Pulp Fiction, sort of embedding that in that we've never seen before. To explain that Madonna, that song is not really about what you think it is, and it's really about sex, and then transitioning into the Steve Buscemi part where he's talking about why he doesn't tip and why he thinks tipping is bullshit and all that stuff. You know, I think it's just an incredible scene, funny scene, makes me think. I've used that dialogue before in real life. You know, it really has an influence on me, and then you really get into that structure of it and really that style of it. But in terms of the structure, people talk about Reservoir Dogs and what it's done for that. And another thing I like to point out is that it really has this beginning, and then it shows you the end, and then throughout time, using that non-linear type of storytelling, it tells you the story. So it's a great job where Reservoir Dogs, for heist movies, it's not a typical heist movie, because normally heist movies, the big heist like Heat or something like that, that's the main standing point of that movie, is that, oh my god, this incredible heist, we're building up to that. This one, we don't even show it, we show little glimpses of it, but that's not what it's about. It's, about really that thrilling, edge of your seat storytelling, where it's like, I don't know who the rat is, who it is, and then we sort of find out before they do. Dramatic irony in the sense of, we know who it is now, and then we see that development. Going back from the beginning, you get the beginning, and then you go to the end, and then you're figuring out the middle throughout the movie. Incredibly interesting. It's edge of your seat because you don't know what's going on, but then it's also funny because the dialogue you're talking about, and then it's violent because you have Harvey Keitel and Steve Buscemi talking about it, and you're like, oh my god, there's a rat, what's going on? And then Michael Madsen comes in, and then he's mysterious, and you're like, oh no, it's definitely him. And then you're like, oh, wonder where the money is going. Chris Penn, Sean Penn's brother, does a great job in this. And we sort of realize sort of the backstory and why the heist went down, and what's happening, and what's the reasoning for having a snitch in there, and just incredible scenes. And then going back to the music, Tarantino does a great job with music. I feel like this is heavily inspired by Mean Streets, which I just saw recently again, and really that sense of taking a song and associating it with the film. Stuck in the Middle with You is now associated with Reservoir Dogs, even though before it wasn't, because it's so ingrained in terms of that movie and that song. And that goes back to not only pop culture thing, but back to the style of it. This movie oozes style and oozes confidence, especially for a first-time director. This is an incredible job that Tarantino really knows what he wants and delivers on it. You have incredible suits, classic suits with the Ray-Bans, and they're walking down, and the music. It just all flows together to have this great sense of style, great sense of confidence, and it's very sure of itself, and it knows what it's trying to do, and executes it perfectly. I think it's a super lean movie. I've seen deleted scenes. I know that they shouldn't be there. It's one of my movies that I love to rewatch. It's endlessly rewatchable for me. I'm a really big fan of Reservoir Dogs. Whether it's the incredible violence, the incredible style, the sort of heist gone wrong, sort of intriguing thing, the incredible storytelling. Reservoir Dogs really is sort of an incredible thing. And also, I'm a Steve Buscemi guy, and this is one of my favorite performances. Fargo is actually my favorite Steve Buscemi performance, but this one he does a great job with, and I actually think he should be used more for that sort of sense in Tarantino movies. But anyways, let's go back, wrap it all together. Tarantino, he's a great director because he's an actor's director. He's worked with so many great actors: Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, some of the best, really. Samuel L. Jackson, and he has that. But he also has great dialogue. And great dialogue and great characters. And really, for all those reasons, that's why Quentin Tarantino is a master of controlled chaos. Because not only is he a great writer, but he's a great director because he can envision his own writing and really develop these great stories. A second close pick before we leave in terms of best, Inglourious Basterds, right there behind Pulp Fiction. An incredible beginning scene with Christoph Waltz. Really well written. The tension is incredible. Very funny. Very smart in terms of the scenes. Every scene matters. Django Unchained is another really fun movie, over-the-top violence with sort of like badass action one-liners. And even the Kill Bill volumes, really fun movies. I'm a big fan of Tarantino's. I've been saying that a lot of these guys, but these are the guys I picked because they're really someone who means to me. Anyways, guys, like the video, comment below, let me know what you think. Tell your friends about the show. I really love hearing your comments, and I'm really going to grow the channel as much as I can. But until next time, I'm Connor Rold, and stay tuned.